Hello again. Right, this is in relation to ACC and when they actually cause you injuries and how they cause you injuries. And then the system then that's set in place as to how you're going to rectify those injuries. And no matter who's committing the injuries and the violence and abuse and threats and intimidation, or leaving victims with post-traumatic stress, which are, they're all classed as accidents, but they're not accidents because they're actually being committed by the people in positions of power in ACC Crown and Government. So when these people cause you injury, they deny you access to rehabilitation, medical and treatment needs. They deny you access to justice and accountability, which is all part and parcel of your rehabilitation, because it's part of your injuries, it's part of your how it was caused. It was caused by an organisation, it was caused by individuals involved. And then they start this whole process of trying to drive it down to psychologists or psychiatrists, or and they want to give you counselling to live with the fact that they've caused you all these injuries and they've caused you all this harm and they've created all this conflict and they've carried out their act of war, vigilantism, abuse, threats, intimidation and violence on your life. And at the end of it, they still want to fucking keep control. Well, there's no fucking way that's going to happen. You see, there's probably 4 ways in which this case can end. One is for the government to call for a Royal Commission of Inquiry on the evidence that exists to actually bring the criminals involved who use the entities to commit their crimes that are not civil matters, criminally to account. So far, the government is the biggest bunch of chicken shit you'll ever come across, because they're too busy trying to hide behind all their other fucking departments, because the people in positions of power and cabinet who actually had their secret meeting on the 20th of June 2007 to actually instigate the carrying out of this organised racketeering, criminal, abusive, threatening, intimidating, violent, kidnapping action. And as you've seen before in my other videotapes, I've already mentioned that and I've covered that. Now, the other one is for the police to actually do their fucking job, which is, you see, then you've got civil jurisdiction, you've got criminal jurisdiction, and then the police say, oh, it's a small thin line between criminal and civil. There is no small thin line between civil and criminal. There is the fact that the police and the Crown and the government and all its fucked up departments run by the fucking criminals and the organised criminals that run the country, they literally want to turn their crimes into civil matters and literally do away with the criminality that they're all involved in. So the police aren't taking criminal charges for the crimes acts that already cover the crimes that are there, that the evidence supports the crimes. So they obstruct and they pervert the courses of justice, because the people involved are nothing but fucking terrorists. Then there's the last resort situation, to where everybody's going to end up in a fucking bloodbath. Now, this is what these terrorists work for. This is what these terrorists instigate all their violence for. It's why they attack the victim's sanity, because they drive it to last resorts and they want it to end at last resort, so they can attack the victim's sanity and say the victim is the fucking problem, not the people running the fucking crimes against the victim. So in other words, you get no rehabilitation, you get no medical treatment needs, you get no justice and accountability, and you get held criminally to blackmail and ransom for the rest of your fucking life. At the hands of vigilantes and state terrorists who feed the fucking world all this bullshit about, we've got a no faults compensation corporation that's literally run as an abortion clinic, it's run as organised crime, and everybody involved in it is making their fucking fortunes from it. They're not looking after people's health and well-being, they're not looking after the best interests of the patient or the victim. They're looking after the best interests of how they can make their multi-billion-dollar fraudulent run, organised crime run, racketeering run, dishonest criminal business practices run to their benefits. And that is the whole fucking problem with New Zealand. It is run by a bunch of fucking terrorists, and Jacinda there in all her speeches to the United Nations It's the biggest load of shite you'll ever hear. And it's the biggest load of garbage, because she should have addressed ACC the minute she stepped into power. She did nothing. She's gone out and she's running around like a blue horsefly, A, B, C, D, and she's doing everything. She can't even pronounce the word probably. She goes, probably, you know? And they all slag me off because I'm dyslexic, like, but if you really want to talk about verbal communications, I can communicate better than any of them ever can. And I can pronounce my words perfectly. Just because I can't spell the fucking things, you know, that's a different story. I can't help the way the brain works, you know, in regards to dyslexia. That's just how life is. But when it comes to logic, reason, and common sense, I've got more than all of them put together. I've got more patience. 20 years I've been accused of threats, intimidation, and violence, and I'm the only one who's never lifted their hand. Every one of them has lifted their hand to me, or has acted aggressively, threatening, intimidating, and violently towards me. So literally, there's 3, maybe 4 ways this case can end. If the government fails and the police fail, then we're only left with last resort. And that's just the reality of how it works. Now, if they are involved in rehabilitating me, then justice and accountability, and criminal accountability is going to be part of addressing the injuries that have been caused. To leave someone with post-traumatic stress through someone else's violence, abuse, threats, intimidation, harassment, criminal harassment, is in fact a case where justice and accountability and restoring the victim's life to the best they can be is part of the rehabilitation. Now, they went out to destroy my reputation, my character, my standing in society. They went out to take away my anonymity. They used their malicious criminal prosecutions to do that. They declared it an act of war to do that. They had the secret meeting at Parliament to do that. And they have defrauded me of over $30,000 through their illegal and unlawful criminally motivated actions by illegally and unlawfully suspending my rights and entitlements with criminal intent to do so, because I was fully compliant at all times, and nobody can argue that point. The fact that there hasn't been any rehabilitation in this case for something in the region of, I would say, a good 12 years, 13 years. Piecemeal, to say the least, before that. But when you invent brain injuries and mental illnesses and threats to kill, and you take the victim's life from civilized normality, easygoing, you know, very naive, just wanting to get on with one's life, you know, to that of attack. You know, 20 years is a long time to keep your patience. 20 years is a long time to have your fucking sanity attacked. 20 years is a long time to be under the negative militia, who not one of them could sit in front of me or a video camera, and I've challenged them all, from the Chief of Police, to the Prime Minister, to the Ministers, to even MPs, to even the media themselves, to Ombudsmen, to Commissioners, even judges. There's not one of them can sit down in front of me and win an argument. There's not one of them can debate the rule of law, because I'd kick their fucking ass every step of the way. I've done it all the way through it. So they're not following the rule of law. They're not adhering to the laws and legislation. New Zealand is being run by a fucking mafia. And I can prove that beyond any reasonable doubt. New Zealand is being run by criminal bullies and abusers, threatening and intimidating violent thugs. They are people who gang up with each other because close doors and come up with this conclusion, because they all want to protect the system, they all want to protect the country, they all want to protect their little high income earnings, while they screw every victim under their controls of everything they've got, and destroy their credibilities, their characters, their reputation, their families, their futures, their aspirations, their dreams, by literally using the person's injuries to literally starve them to death and starve them of all rights, entitlements, rehabilitation, medical and treatment needs, while working to destroy the entire victim's life. And then when they don't succeed in their criminal intent and outcome, they literally shut up shop, they become stagnant, stalemate, and create Mexican standoffs. But in the process, they've created post-traumatic stress for their victims, and they can't address post-traumatic stress without taking responsibility for the fact that they caused it. So now we're at the stage now where ACC wants to prove how that was fucking caused. Well, I haven't been in any other criminal conflicts or violence with anybody other than fucking ACC, Crown, Government, Police, the Crown Law Office, the vigilantes and the fucking terrorists involved. So it can't be fucking down to somebody else. So what is fucking ACC investigating? To try and wangle their fucking way around the fact that they are nothing but fucking criminals. Exactly. So it's more fucking around and more fucking around and more fucking around. So it's more years of my life being fucking taken from me by these terrorists. So, someone better get this fucking addressed. At the end of the day, the government, no matter which way this works, the government either calls for a Royal Commission of Inquiry, or ACC has to fund public-private criminal prosecutions against every fucking criminal involved. Which means all the evidence has to go before a court as part of my rehabilitation, as part of restoring